Hey guys, it's Jessii Vee. So the title of this video is not clickbait in any way. It was a very unfortunate event, but it had a relatively good ending, which is why I'm telling this story, because if it ended in something very tragic, I probably wouldn't be sharing this on the internet. So yes, my best friend did make it out okay, but I'm going to be telling what happened to her from my perspective, because let's be honest, this is more her story to tell than it is mine. So all I could do is talk about how it was for me and my side of things, because I don't really want to speak for her, if that makes sense. Now, this did happen, I think, just over 4 years ago or so it is nothing recent, and you guys know by now that when something really horrible happens, either in my life or in a family or friend's life, I don't like to tell the story if it's very recent. I like to let a few years go by, just so it's not as emotional, I guess, and just out of respect for other people involved, I like to have quite a lot of time go by before I just talk about it. Although the person I'm talking about, she did have really great humor about it, and she's just so positive. Like, I remember this happened around when I started YouTube, and whenever she'd be over at my house and we'd be brainstorming ideas for videos, she'd always be like, "Oh, you can tell my story about the bus accident." And I'd always be like, "No, I can't tell that. That was something horrible that happened to you." But she was so open about it and was like, "Yeah, take this idea if you want. I'd be totally fine with you talking about this." But at the time, like, I just didn't feel like I should, even though I had her permission to do it. But anyways, like I said, I'm going to be talking about my relationship with this girl, and I want to keep her privacy, so I'm not going to give any real details about her life or the school she went to or her name or anything like that, so I have to come up with a different name. Also, sorry if you hear weird background noises. I chose a really horrible day to film this video. The neighbors across from me are doing some serious front and backyard work, so there's like machines out there and a lot of noise happening, so try to just ignore that if you can even hear it. I'm not really sure if you can. But okay, so I need to come up with a name. Let's call her Joelle. So Joelle and I became best friends sort of later on in high school. I always knew about her. We were always like mutual friends, and it wasn't until I think mid-grade 11 that we actually started talking and hanging out a lot. I remember the first time I ever really spoke to her and had a long conversation was when we were waiting for the bus in grade 11, and we were both standing on this hill by the school, and the bus was really late, and we just started having a conversation, and then that progressed to hanging out, and I invited her to my 18th birthday party, and we just got really close, like super fast. I had never really connected with anybody that fast, and we made friends with this other girl, let's call her Haley. So the three of us girls were like, we were literally just like inseparable, you know what I mean? And it was great because I had been through so much in high school, so many bad things had happened that partially you guys know about with that guy who assaulted me, but there was also something else that happened to me that I have not yet shared on here, and I probably will eventually, but she knew all about what happened to me, and we just really connected from that, and I will always cherish that friendship with her, that she was always there for me, and we just had so much fun. We have so many memories. And then college came around, and it's always a tough time in college because when you make such great friends in high school, it's sad to sort of separate from them. And so she went off to university and I went to college, so we were only really able to see each other on the weekends, which was still fine. It still worked out for us. Like, the minute the weekend came around, we were always hanging out and things just seemed as usual. Now, I'm sure you guys can relate to having a best friend, obviously, and that entails a lot of texting, a lot of communication. Like, we probably texted almost every hour of the day. So if I didn't hear from her in a long span of time, it was just very strange because she was pretty quick at responding, and if I didn't hear from her, I just assumed that something not great had happened. So there was this one particular weekend where I believe my family and I were going to a wake or someone's memorial or something. I think it was one of my parents' friends that I didn't know very well, but I was just going with them for like support. And we were getting ready for this wake, and I remember standing in my mom's bedroom and I was helping her pick out an outfit, and at this point I hadn't heard from Joelle in about 2 days, and I had been calling her, I had been texting her. I even eventually texted her sister because I was like, where the heck is she? She's never like this. And I didn't hear back from her sister, and it was just very bizarre, and I was super worried. And I was standing in my mom's bedroom. It was like a Saturday, and I finally got a text from her, and she was like, "I'm sorry, Jess, I'm in the hospital. I was hit by a bus." That is literally what she said, no exaggeration. And you can imagine me seeing this. At first I was like, hold on, is she kidding? Like, is this her way of like joking because she was away? Because she did joke a lot. She was a very like humorous person, and so I had to respond with like, wait, are you serious? So I sent that back, and she's like, yeah, I know it sounds dramatic. I will tell you about it soon, but right now I can't be texting. I'm not in a good state. I will tell you about it later. So that was the last I heard from her, and then I had to go to this wake, and I was literally thinking about this the whole entire time. Like, how could your mind be really anywhere else, right? So then I didn't hear from her for the next couple days. I was trying to call her. I had no idea what hospital she was at because she didn't give me any details. I just knew nothing, and I just felt useless, you know what I mean? So finally, like a week later, she called me and she said, "I'm so sorry, I wasn't allowed any screens in front of me. I had to be in a pitch black room." She couldn't have any devices to communicate with anybody because of her injuries. So she proceeded to tell me how it went, and luckily she wasn't hit by the very front of the bus. She was hit by the side of the bus, so like where the doors are and where the mirror sticks out type of thing. So she told me that she was walking near the curb at, I believe, the front of her school. I don't remember specific details. This was such a blur when she told me all of this, but she was walking really close to the road, like where the buses pull through to pick up students. And I guess she was like not really paying attention, walking by the curb, and this bus passed her going full speed. And because the bus was close to the side of the road and she was like right on the curb, the side of the bus, like the mirror part that sticks way out, it's this huge metal mirror, it hit her full speed right at the back of the head, threw her forward. She completely blacked out. Apparently people around her like ran over. The bus driver stopped. They were all trying to help her, and obviously that's a huge impact to your head and your brain. So she had this massive, really dangerous concussion, and she had to go to the hospital, and she was telling me all about this terrifying and horrible event, and I just couldn't believe that it had happened to her. And it wasn't just something that she could walk away from and recover from really quickly. The doctors were telling her this would be like years of a process of recovering because of the damage to her head, and obviously that impacts her neck and her back, so her whole body was just in pain. And I remember her for weeks, like I think it was like a month or two, where she had to literally lie in a pitch black room, no windows open, nothing, to heal like the impact of the concussion. She couldn't read anything. Her speech was slurred. It really had an impact on her brain, which was terrible. And so obviously I was there for her as much as I could in that first year, but there were a lot of times that I couldn't be because of her recovery process. She couldn't go to school. She used to be on the rowing team. She couldn't be doing that anymore. It just like put this like standstill on her life. I remember like a year later, we all had this board game night at my friend's house, and she attended, and she wasn't even able to like read the instructions or anything on the cards, and it was really difficult for her to play the games because her mind just wouldn't let her from the impact. And I think I just slowly saw her becoming a different person, which was really sad for me, and she knew it herself. I mean, after something like that happening, you can't really be the same, like physically, emotionally, anything like that. So this happened like 4.5 years ago. So now, at this point in my life and at this point in her life, we're not really close anymore. And it's nothing that we chose to happen, but I feel like these last couple years, she sort of pulled away from her old friendships, and I think it's because she wanted to start sort of a new life. And as much as we missed her and reached out and really wanted to hang out with her and still see her, I think she chose to sort of move on in a different direction as she was healing. And you know, it's something that I respect and I do understand, but I do miss her, and things are very different now. I think the last time I heard from her was this past January. She just checked in, told me she missed me, and we sort of talked for a bit, but it's definitely not that best friendship that we used to have. But she is such a strong person. Like, she dealt with this this way better than I know that I would have if I was in her position. So she's an amazing girl, she's really strong, and it just goes to show you, because I like to have some sort of lesson in my story times for you guys, it just shows you that if she can get through something that horrible happening, you guys can too. Anything can happen, but it really depends on how you deal with it that matters. So I just thought that I would tell you guys this story time today, because as her best friend at the time, it really was impactful to me, and it really was a terrible time. But she did get through it, and she's living a much better life now, and she's really happy, and I'm just glad that she was able to get to that place now. If any of you guys are struggling from being in some sort of accident, just know that it does get better, and just keep pushing, keep motivating yourself, and keep that strength, because it's really important. But anyways, I hope you guys have an awesome rest of your day, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!